Paper people in the world. If you don't know who they are, it might be you. But it's not you, of course, it's those other people. But sandpaper people, there are some people who light up a room when they walk into it, and then there are some people who light up a room when they walk out of it. And those are sandpaper people, and at the end of the day, you're just kind of glad they're gone. And there are different reasons for this. Sometimes people are complainers and whiners. Sometimes they're talkers and gossips. And we're going to look at something different this morning. And at its core, again, it makes us very abrasive. It makes us very contentious. And it makes you sandpaper. And the word for the church is, don't do that. Don't be that. Don't be like folks who are not called of God, not set apart for God. Facebook can be a great thing. Can be a place where we keep in touch. We are encouraged. We are inspired, and I get to see what Al had for lunch today. I mean, if Al's off someplace and he's taking a picture of his pork chop, I get to think, hey, didn't Al get a great pork chop? Okay, you cat people, quit posting pictures of your cats. But Facebook can be a great thing. Facebook can also be very divisive and contentious. Okay, there was a day in November of 2015. I think I've got his picture up here. Does anybody remember this guy? Okay, he's the red Starbucks preacher man. Somebody back in 2015 in November woke up one morning and decided that we were all supposed to be greatly offended that Starbucks was recognizing the Christmas season by putting blank red cups to recognize November and December. Do you guys remember this teeny, tiny little controversy? But for about 48 or 72 hours, everybody was all up in a whirlwind because this guy, and I think he's a preacher. I think he lives in Arizona. I try my hardest never to criticize another Christian, criticize another preacher. But if I was going to, it would be this guy. I'm not going to, but if I was going to, it would be this guy. Okay, so Starbucks, which, by the way, just in case you didn't know, is not a church, is not a Christian organization, is not a Christian coffee manufacturer. They have a political agenda. It is not necessarily my political agenda. But Starbucks, that is a company, did not put little baby mangers and stars and angels and whatever on its Christmas mug, Christmas cup. It was just blank red. And this guy decided that all of us evangelicals, all of us Christians should get all up in a bunch over that. So he made an internet video. The internet video went viral. All of us got all up into Twitter. Either Starbucks upset us, or we pushed back and we got upset that this guy was upset. And then the other side got upset that we were upset that this guy was upset. And at the end of the day, we were just all divided again. It's the outrage of the day. You know what the outrage of tomorrow's going to be? No, you don't. You're going to have to wake up tomorrow, turn on the news. They'll tell you what to be upset about. But we don't even know what to be upset about yet. But they'll tell us tomorrow. There are some people that are always looking for a fight. And folks, you find what you're looking for, usually. If you lose your phone and you look for your phone, you usually find your phone. If you lose your keys and you're looking for your keys, if you're tearing up the house looking for your keys, you usually find your keys. If you're looking for a fight, you'll find one. And there are people, there are Christians, Not any of you people, of course, but other people, other Christians, other places, other churches. There are Christians that are constantly looking for a fight. They're constantly looking for the next red Starbucks cup to get upset about. It'll be Hobby Lobby, it'll be some bakery in another state that you don't know where it is and you've never been to. It'll be Chick-fil-A and their fabulous God's chicken. It'll be something for us all to get upset about. And they're sandpaper people. People that are constantly outraged, constantly upset. I want you to stand up with me. We're going to look at 2 scriptures this morning, then an Old Testament story. And then we're going to leave here and we're going to be better. Okay? This is, somebody came up after church. It happens almost every week. Somebody came up after church and said, Pastor, I disagree with you, which that's okay. This is a safe place. And then somebody else came up and said, you were preaching to me, weren't you? And I said, yeah, your name's right here at the top of this sermon. I wrote this thinking that you would be here and I could preach to you. Okay, so in Romans chapter 16, right at the end of the book of Romans, after all that deep theology, here's what we believe, Paul sharing with the church. In Romans 16, verses 17 and 18, it says this, I urge you, brothers and sisters, to watch out for those who cause divisions. Look out for those who cause divisions and obstacles in your way that are contrary to the teaching that you've learned. Keep away from them. For such people are not serving our Lord Christ, but their own appetites. They're just itching for a fight. And so they go out and look for it, and by golly, they'll find it. Turn ahead a few books to Titus, the book of Titus. All the T books are together in the New Testament. So at the very end of the T books, Titus chapter 3. Titus chapter 3, verse 9 says this, avoid foolish controversies. In the original Greek, it says red Starbucks cup. Avoid foolish controversies and genealogies and arguments and quarrels about the law, because these are unprofitable and useless. At the end of the day, all this stuff that we get all up and tightly wound about, most of it doesn't matter. We don't even remember what we were upset about in February. But we were. Because these are unprofitable and useless. Warn a divisive person once. Now he's talking to the church. Christians. Warn a divisive person once, and then warn them a second time, and after that, have nothing to do with them. Okay? Now you can be sanctified about that. Okay? We're not talking, you smack them around a little bit and then pitch them out the door. But operate around them. Go around them. Warn a divisive person once, then warn them a second time. After that, have nothing to do with them. You may be sure that such people are warped and sinful, and they are self-condemned. This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. You can be seated. There are those who always seem to be itching for a fight. They're looking for a fight. Followers of Christ, however, church, Christians, you are called to be different. You are called to be set aside. You are called to be, here's your Nazarene word, sanctified. You are set aside. You are unique. You're called for a purpose. We have battles. We do. We have battles. We have battles that are not against flesh and blood. We have supernatural, spiritual battles. It's usually not the next thing that pops up on Facebook for us to be upset about. If you ever want to see evil in the world, get into the comments section. Get into the comments. Oh, be wary, young pilgrim. Don't get into the comments section. If you find yourself in constant conflict day after day, I want you to ask yourself this question. If you find that you're in constant conflict with family, with coworkers, with friends, with just random people out there in the world. If you find that you're in constant conflict with people, can I just say this? It might not be everybody else. It could be you. I had a first grade teacher. Ironically, her name was Miss Cook. No relation. And she hated me. I don't know how you hate a little boy, Richie Cook, in 1976, but she did. She hated me. And then I had a second grade teacher, and shock, she hated me. And then third grade was Mrs. Buechler. That was a nice nightmare. But in fourth grade was Mr. Roth, and I had high hopes for Mr. Roth. It was my first dude teacher. I thought he was Joe Namath. I thought he was the greatest thing ever. And he hated me. After a while, I don't know when the light bulb went on, but I realized this. It's not just everybody else. It's me. If you constantly are getting called out, if you're constantly getting into fights, if you're constantly in conflict with people, it's not just everybody else out there, it's you. Follower of Jesus, Christian, disciple, we are called to be set apart. And we are called to be different. In the Old Testament, there's a story. It's a very, very familiar story. And we're going to get hung up on one detail in this Old Testament story. I want you to turn to the book of 1 Samuel, Old Testament, 1 Samuel 17. Anybody know off the top of their head what the story is? David? Yes, David and Goliath. Okay. Everybody knows how this ends, right? Big guy, Goliath, goes down. Long story short, bada bing, bada boom, Goliath goes down. But we don't know that that's going to happen for a while. So turn to the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 17, and I want us to get completely sidetracked on one detail, okay? So 1 Samuel, chapter 17, I'm going to read along. I want you to hear this story. Now the Philistines gathered their forces for war. The Philistines are over here on this hillside. There's a hill and a valley. The enemy, the Philistines, are over here. God's people, the Israelites, the people of King Saul, the army of Israel is over here. And there's a valley in between. And the Philistines have a giant. He's 9 foot something. He's ginormous. And the Bible talks about how big he is, how heavy his armor is, and even how heavy the spear is that he throws. He had somebody who walked into battle just to carry his shield. He was huge. And every day, the armies would line up. The Philistines over on this side and the Israelites over on this side, they would come out very Braveheart. Okay, everybody would be all painted up for war, William Wallace is over here and he's got the blue on his face, and then Longshanks is over here and they've got all the soldiers and all the horses and all the, way, way, way overpowering battle. They're going to crush the little Scotsman, right? Every day they would come out. The Philistines and the Israelites would come out and face each other. Verse 4, a champion named Goliath, who was from Gath, came out from the Philistine camp. He was huge. Verse 8, Goliath stood and shouted to the ranks of Israel. This is trash talk, Old Testament style, okay? Why do you come out and line up for battle? Am I not a Philistine, and are you not the servants of Saul? Choose a man and have him come down to me. If he is able to fight and kill me, we will become your subjects. But if I overcome him and kill him, you will become our subjects and serve us. Then the Philistines said, this day I defy the armies of Israel. This is trash talk. This day I defy the armies of Israel. Give me a man and let us fight each other. On hearing the Philistines' words, Saul and all the Israelites were dismayed and terrified. Now that would make sense day one. Okay, that would make sense day one. The Philistines come out, line up for battle. The Israelites come out, line up for battle. And all of a sudden, out from a tent pops this ginormous, huge giant. My knees would go a little shaky too. But it's not just day one. Now David who wasn't a soldier. He was a shepherd boy. Now David was the son of Jesse, who was from Bethlehem in Judah. Jesse had 8 sons. And in Saul's time, he was very old. Jesse's 3 oldest sons had gone to war with Saul. The firstborn was Eliab. That was the oldest boy. The second was Abinadab, and the third Shammah. Cool names, by the way. If you're having boy children, Abinadab is not taken. David was the baby. David was the youngest. The 3 oldest had gone to battle with Saul, but David went back and forth from Saul to tend his father's sheep at Bethlehem. For 40 days, the Philistines came forward every morning and evening and took their stand. For 40 days, Goliath would come out and stare down all these guys ready for battle, and no battle happens. Now Jesse had said to his baby boy David, "Take this roasted grain and these 10 loaves of bread to your brothers and hurry to their camp. Go see how they're doing. Take along these 10 cheeses to the commanders of the unit." Never hurts to be nice to the commanders. "See how your brothers are and come back and bring some assurance. Tell me how they're doing." They're with Saul and the men of Israel in the valley of Elah fighting. Finger quotes, fighting. They're in that valley all there lined up. They're fighting against the Philistines. So the definition of fighting is getting all dressed up, coming out and yelling battle cries. Early in the morning, David left the flock in the care of a shepherd, loaded up, and set out as Jesse had directed. He reached the camp as the army was going out to its battle positions, shouting the war cry. David probably thought, it's time to fight. Israel and the Philistines were drawing up their lines and facing each other. David left the things with the keeper of supplies, ran to the battle lines, and asked his brothers how they were. As he was talking with them, Goliath, the Philistine champion from Gath, stepped out from his lines and shouted his usual defiance, his trash talk, and David heard it. Whenever the Israelites saw this man, they fled from him in great fear. Picture this. The Philistines are over here. They've come out of their tents. They're ready for battle. The Israelites have come out of their tents. They're ready for battle. Goliath pops out and they go, "Ah!" And they turn and run. Not 1 day, not 5 days, not 10 days, 40 days this happens. What did they think? After day 38, what did they think was going to happen? Maybe Goliath will have a tummy ache and today's our day. Now the Israelites had been saying, "Do you see this man who keeps coming out, Goliath? He comes out to defy Israel. The king will give great wealth to the man who kills him. What will be done for the one who takes out the enemy champion? What will be done for the one who kills Goliath? Great wealth to the man who kills him. He will also give him his daughter, King Saul's daughter, the princess. He will give him his daughter in marriage. And even better, no taxes." Is anything better than marrying the princess? Yes! It's mentioned last, so it's got the biggest punch. No taxes for the entire family. David asked the men standing near him, "What will be done for this man who kills the Philistine, removes this disgrace from Israel?" See, David's got a different mindset. Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? Who does he think he is? They repeated to him what they had been saying and told him this is what will be done for the man who kills him. When Eliab, that's David's oldest brother, he's the soldier. He's the one who's been trucking out 40 days, morning and evening, full armor, full battle gear, ready to roll, ready to fight the enemy. And then for 40 days, he turns tail and runs. When Eliab, David's oldest brother, heard him speaking with the men, he burned with anger at him and asked, "Why have you come down here? And with whom did you leave those few sheep in the wilderness?" That's trash talk, by the way. "Who'd you leave the sheep with, boy? I know how conceited you are and how wicked your heart is. You came down only to watch the battle." See, criticism comes in several ways. Criticism can focus on the petty. Okay? Eliab has an enemy, a real live enemy over here, and he's flicking his brother's nose about the sheep. So he can focus on the petty. He can make it a personal attack. You're conceited and wicked. He called him names. He even called into question David's motives for coming. David should have gone, dude, Dad sent me with a sandwich. Chillax. But David didn't come to fight his brother. David knew who the real enemy was. Okay, keep reading. Verse 29. After Eliab had said, hey, what'd you come here for? Where's your sheep? I know you're conceited and you're wicked. You came just to watch. Verse 29. This is the one detail I want you to get a hold of. David says to his brother, now what have I done? Can't I even speak? And then he says this. He then turned away to someone else and brought up the same matter. And the men answered him as before. What David said was overheard and reported to Saul, King Saul. 2 words. David turned aside. Folks, you do not have to attend every battle you're invited to. You don't have to attend every time someone flicks your nose. Okay? We don't have to get all in a bunch over every red Starbucks cup that comes along. You don't have to defend yourself every time somebody comes at you. You don't have to defend other Christians every time somebody comes after them. You don't have to defend the church every time somebody comes after the church. You know why? Because it's not yours to defend. God is plenty strong and Jesus is plenty able. And there is an enemy, but it's usually not the one who's the annoying one flicking you in the nose. See, Eliab, the oldest brother, who should have been leading God's army into battle, but instead was dressing up for battle fine, but at the end of the day was turning and running back into the tents. He found an enemy that day. The enemy wasn't Goliath, it was his kid brother. Eliab found an enemy, and Eliab wanted to fight David. Where'd you leave your sheep, boy? I know how conceited you are. You just came to watch, didn't you? David, in a sense, you have to read in Old Testament Hebrew, but David basically says, I'm not talking to you. And I'm certainly not going to fight you. You know who we should be fighting? The big goon over your shoulder. There's a real enemy. But Eliab's not the enemy. The enemy is Goliath. Folks, there are many Christians, there are many people in the church, there are many, many people out there in the world that are just itching for a fight. And some of us followers of Jesus forget that we are set apart for a higher purpose, that we are sanctified for God's use, and we just want to entertain and just engage in every fight. People, let me tell you this. Be like David and turn away. That's not cowardly. That's focus. Do you see the difference? Well, if David doesn't set Eliab straight, Eliab will think he won. Who cares? If Arizona preacher internet man wants to not go to Starbucks because of their unsanctified red Starbucks Christmas cup, fine. Let it go. You know why? We've got a bigger fish to fry. We've got a bigger enemy. You know who the true enemy is? Satan. Satan is not showing up as a red Starbucks cup. Satan probably isn't going to be in the middle of the thing that they tell you to be upset about tomorrow. Wake up tomorrow morning, and if you are so inclined, turn on CNN or turn on Fox News or turn on something else, and they'll tell you what to get all up in a bunch over, if you want. That's usually not the enemy either. I have a battle in my life. My battle is for my own soul. My battle is for my family. My battle is for my boys. My battle is for this church. My battle is for this community. God is going to give me ample opportunity over the next few hours to fight spiritual battles. Unless I want to get entangled in really dumb, stupid things to fight over. I'll be invited to a lot of dumb things to fight over in the next few hours and days. And I can waste a lot of time and effort. Folks, don't be a sandpaper person. Well, it's just the way I was put together. Well, I can't let those things go unpunished. Okay. How's that working out for you? Pretty soon, you've got to come to a realization. It's not everybody else. It's you. You're the one. You enjoy the fight. You enjoy, well, yeah, I do. Somebody's got to step up and fight. Okay. You've only got so much energy. You only have so many hours in the day. You only have so many days. They are precious. I want to spend my focus. I want to spend my energy. I want to spend my spiritual self fighting Goliath, not Eliab. Eliab's a flea. You know what you do with fleas? Okay, one of our general superintendents, one of our Church of the Nazarene general superintendents, Dr. Deal, said this: don't jump off of a bridge to save a hat. Don't jump off a bridge to save a hat. Don't entertain every Eliab that comes along that wants to fight you. Don't take the bait every time the world plunks down a lure in front of you. Ooh, free lunch, shiny worm. And we miss the hook. Folks, there are spiritual battles to fight. Usually not found on the cup at Starbucks. It's usually not presented on the news. It's usually not in a state or a town or with people you've never interacted with. We have spiritual battles. We have spiritual battles in our own families. We have spiritual battles in this town. Spend your spiritual capital on those. With the help of Almighty God. Would you stand up with me? God, we need your help to know the difference. We can expend all of our energy and focus and capital fighting every Eliab that pops up. That is loud and cranky and divisive. Help us, God, free us from